He grew up in the Dominican Republic practicing with limes for baseballs and a milk carton for a glove. He went on to earn $341 million, hit 703 home runs, won 3 MVP trophies, made the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, and he built his entire life not around mansions, not around supercars, not around a lifestyle that screams, "I made it," but around his daughter. He is the last player on this list, and his story will change how you think about wealth. But first, according to CNBC, within 5 years of retirement, an estimated 60% of professional athletes are either broke or under severe financial stress. 60%. Men who earned tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, and watched it vanish. Blown on entourages, bad investments, and lifestyles designed to impress people who do not care about them. The players on this list broke the pattern. Not because they were cheap, but because they understood something most people with this kind of money never figure out. Real wealth is not what you spend. It is what you build. If this is your first time here, welcome to Black Status, where we go deep on the wealth, power, and legacy of the Black community worldwide. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because by the end of this video, your definition of rich is about to change completely. Let us start with a man who asked his sponsors to stop paying him. Number 7. Curtis Granderson, the man who fired his own sponsors. Read that again. He asked his sponsors to stop paying him. Curtis Granderson played 16 seasons in Major League Baseball. He suited up for the Detroit Tigers, the New York Yankees, the New York Mets, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Miami Marlins. He was a 3-time All-Star. He hit 344 career home runs. Over 16 years, he earned approximately $100 million. And then he did something that no financial advisor would ever recommend. He went to Nike. He went to Louisville Slugger. He went to Rawlings. And he asked them voluntarily to redirect his endorsement money away from his bank account and straight to charity. Not a portion. The endorsement income itself. He told multi-billion-dollar corporations to donate the money they owed him to organizations that needed it more. Think about that for a second. This man turned down guaranteed income on purpose. But Granderson was not done. He made a $5 million personal donation to the University of Illinois at Chicago, the largest gift ever from a professional athlete to their alma mater at the time, according to Sports Illustrated. He did not just write a check and disappear. He went back to school during his playing career to earn his degree. While teammates compared watches and blasted music in the clubhouse, Granderson sat in the corner reading. And then there is the Grand Giving Initiative, Granderson's program that has provided over 15 million meals to food-insecure families. 15 million, not dollars. Meals. In 2016, he won the Roberto Clemente Award, the highest honor in baseball for community impact. In 2021, he received the Heisman Humanitarian Award. A baseball player winning a football award for being a better human than almost everyone in any sport. $100 million in career earnings. And the man literally asked corporations to stop paying him so the money could go to someone else. But the next player? He grew up in a trailer. His parents were 17 years old when he was born, and what he did at 8 years old tells you everything you need to know about who he became. Number 6. Andrew McCutchen, the 8-year-old. Who said no? Andrew McCutchen's parents were both 17 years old when he was born. Let that sit. 2 teenagers, no money, no plan, just a baby and a prayer. The family lived in a trailer in Bartow, Florida, for the first 8 years of McCutchen's life. Not a starter home, not a fixer-upper, a trailer. And here is the detail that will stay with you. When McCutchen was 8 years old, his parents scraped together enough money to buy him a PlayStation for Christmas. They could not really afford it, but they did it anyway, because that is what parents do. Young Andrew saw the strain on their faces. He saw the sacrifice behind the gift, and he told his parents to take it back. 8 years old. He told them to return the PlayStation because he could see they could not afford it. That is not a normal 8-year-old. That is someone who was paying attention to the cost of everything, not just the price. Baseball became McCutchen's way out. He was drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates and rapidly became the face of the franchise. In 2013, he won the National League MVP award. In 2015, he won the Roberto Clemente Award. Over a career spanning the Pirates, the Giants, the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Brewers, McCutchen earned approximately $118 million. And after he signed his $51.5 million contract extension with Pittsburgh, do you know what he posted on social media? A photo of his childhood trailer. The caption? "Come a long way since living here." Not a photo of a new car, not a mansion tour, a trailer. Because Andrew McCutchen never forgot who he was before the money arrived. $118 million, an MVP trophy, and a man whose greatest flex was the home he came from, not the one he could afford now. Now, the next player on this list earned even more. But his story is not about where he came from. It is about what he walked away from. Because this man was the most famous baseball player on the planet, and he chose to disappear. Number 5. Ken Griffey Jr. The Disappearing Act. If any baseball player could have become Michael Jordan, a global brand, a billion-dollar empire, a cultural icon beyond the sport, it was Ken Griffey Jr. The backwards cap. The sweetest swing in baseball history. The smile that could sell anything to anyone. In the 1990s, Griffey was the most famous athlete in baseball. He was on every magazine cover. He had his own Nike shoe line. His video game was more popular than some actual sports. An entire generation of kids fell in love with baseball because of this man. He could have built an empire that rivaled any athlete in history. He chose not to. Over a 22-year career with the Seattle Mariners and the Cincinnati Reds, Griffey earned approximately $160 million. He hit 630 career home runs. He won 10 consecutive Gold Glove awards, 10 straight. He was a 13-time All-Star. And when the Hall of Fame ballot came, he received 99.3% of the vote, the highest percentage in the history of baseball at that time. Ken Griffey Jr. was as close to unanimously great as any player has ever been. And then he retired. And he vanished. No farewell tour. No tearful press conference. No transition into broadcasting or podcasting, or building a media company. He reportedly told friends he would announce his retirement by sending a 2-word fax: "He gone." Jr. moved to Windermere, Florida. He played golf. He spent time with his family. He quietly funded pediatric cancer research at Seattle Children's Hospital, not for publicity, not for a tax break, but because children were sick and he had the means to help. While other retired superstars fought to stay relevant, launching brands, signing TV deals, building personal empires, Griffey chose silence. Privacy. A life that would be completely unremarkable if his name were not Ken Griffey Jr. $160 million. The highest Hall of Fame vote percentage in history, and a man who walked away from it all to live like your next-door neighbor. That takes more discipline than any swing he ever took. But the next player on this list did not just live quietly. He actively refused to talk about his own generosity because he believed that real charity should not come with a camera crew. Number 4. Torii Hunter, the silent giver. Before Torii Hunter was robbing home runs in center field, he was just another kid in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, trying to survive. If you know Pine Bluff, you know exactly what that means. It consistently ranks among the most dangerous and economically devastated cities in the entire United States. The poverty rate hovers above 30%. Violent crime rates are staggering for a city its size. Most kids growing up there do not dream about making the major leagues. They dream about making it to 25. Torii Hunter made it to both. Over an 18-year career with the Minnesota Twins, the Los Angeles Angels, and the Detroit Tigers, Hunter earned approximately $171 million. He won 9 Gold Glove awards. 9. He was named an All-Star 5 times. He was one of the most spectacular defensive outfielders of his generation, famous for scaling outfield walls and stealing home runs like they belonged to him. But here is what defined Torii Hunter beyond the diamond. The very first thing he did with his signing bonus before buying himself anything was lift his parents and his 4 siblings out of poverty. The very first check went home. Not to a dealership, not to a jeweler, home. He later donated $500,000 to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, the largest single athletic donation in the school's history at that time. But when reporters asked him about the full extent of his charitable work, Hunter shut them down. His exact words, "There are some things you just do not talk about." Let that resonate. A man worth $171 million doing so much good that he refused to take credit for it. Not for humility points, not for PR, because he genuinely believed that charity done for an audience is not charity at all. $171 million, 9 gold gloves, and a man who gave in silence. If you think that level of discipline with money is rare, the next player signed for $250 million, and then started handing $1,000 checks to complete strangers. Number 3. David Price, the $250 million stranger. In December 2015, David Price signed a 7-year, $217 million contract with the Boston Red Sox. At the time, it was the largest contract ever given to a pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball. $217 million. Guaranteed. What would you do with that kind of money? David Price gave it away. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when minor league players across baseball were facing financial devastation, many earning less than poverty wages, some losing their housing, Price personally wrote $1,000 checks to 220 individual minor leaguers. That is $220,000 out of his own pocket, handed directly to players he had no obligation to help. Players he barely knew. But that was just the beginning. Price donated $300,000 to build a miracle field in his hometown of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, a specially designed baseball diamond for children with disabilities who otherwise would never get to play the sport he loved. He donated $2.5 million to Vanderbilt University, where he played college ball. He paid for a teammate's grandmother's funeral when the family could not afford it. And his foundation? He named it after his childhood best friend, who died at just 22 years old. Not after himself, after the person he lost. Over a career spanning the Tampa Bay Rays, the Detroit Tigers, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and the Los Angeles Dodgers, Price earned approximately $245 million. He won the 2012 American League Cy Young Award. He was a 5-time All-Star. He won a World Series ring. And his lifestyle? No fleet of exotic cars. No entourage. No 12,000-square-foot mansion with a car elevator. The man's most well-known hobby was playing Fortnite, $250 million, and David Price spent more of it on strangers than he ever spent on himself. Now, the next player earned even more, $260 million. He was just inducted into the Hall of Fame last year. But his story is not about baseball. It is about surviving a place that tried to destroy him and then going back to save it. Number 2. CC Sabathia, the Vallejo survivor. Before CC Sabathia was the ace of the New York Yankees, he was a kid in North Vallejo, California. If you know Vallejo, you know what that means. In the 1990s, Vallejo was one of the most violent cities in the San Francisco Bay Area. Drugs, gangs, poverty woven into the fabric of every block. In 2008, Vallejo became the largest city in California to declare bankruptcy. The entire city went broke. CC Sabathia did not just grow up near that reality, he grew up inside it. He lost friends to the streets. He saw things no kid should ever have to process. And when asked later what saved his life, he did not say baseball. He said the Boys and Girls Club. That place saved my life. His words, not a publicist's. His. Baseball eventually became Sabathia's vehicle out. Over a 19-year career with the Cleveland Indians, Milwaukee Brewers, and New York Yankees, he earned approximately $260 million. He won the 2007 American League Cy Young Award. He was a 6-time All-Star. He recorded 3,093 career strikeouts. He won a World Series ring in 2009. And in 2025, just last year, he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame on the first ballot. $260 million. A Hall of Famer. CC Sabathia could have lived like a king for the rest of his life and nobody would have blinked. Instead, he did 2 things that define him far more than any pitch he ever threw. First, he went back to Vallejo. He founded the Pittsburgh Foundation and poured resources directly into the neighborhoods that almost swallowed him. Free baseball camps for kids who could not afford equipment, backpacks filled with school supplies, scholarships for students who had talent but no opportunity. Not in Manhattan, not in the Hamptons, in Vallejo, in the Bronx, in the places most wealthy people pretend do not exist. Second, and this is what separates Sabathia from almost every athlete who has ever lived, in October 2015, at the peak of his career and earning power, he publicly checked himself into alcohol rehabilitation. He did not hide it. He did not let a publicist spin it. He stood in front of the world and said, in his own words, "You can have all the money and all the stuff but still struggle." That is a man worth $250 million, admitting, on camera, that money could not fix him. That takes a kind of courage that no contract can buy. He came back, he pitched 4 more seasons. He retired with dignity, with his community intact, and with the kind of respect that no amount of money can buy. $260 million. A Cy Young. A World Series ring. A Hall of Fame plaque. And a man who chose vulnerability over vanity. But we are not done yet. The final player on this list earned more money than everyone we have talked about so far. $341 million, 703 home runs, and a childhood so poor that he could not even afford a real baseball. Number 1. Albert Pujols. Limes and a milk carton. Albert Pujols arrived in the United States from the Dominican Republic at 16 years old with almost nothing. Not almost nothing in the way celebrities say it to seem relatable. Almost nothing as in, he practiced baseball using limes for balls and a milk carton for a glove. That is not a metaphor. That is what he had. Limes and a milk carton. He landed in Independence, Missouri. Barely spoke English. Enrolled in a local high school and played baseball on fields that most travel ball parents would consider unacceptable. No scouts were circling. No blue-chip rankings. No million-dollar signing bonus waiting. Then he started hitting. And he did not stop for 22 years. Over a career spanning the St. Louis Cardinals, the Los Angeles Angels, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and a triumphant return to St. Louis, Albert Pujols earned approximately $341 million. He won 3 National League MVP awards. He won 2 World Series championships. He collected 3,384 hits. He drove in 2,218 runs, the second most in the entire history of Major League Baseball. He hit 703 career home runs, only the 4th player in history to reach 700. First ballot Hall of Famer. One of the greatest right-handed hitters who ever lived. $341 million. And the center of Albert Pujols' life is not baseball. It never was. It is his daughter, Isabella. Isabella was born with Down syndrome, and from that moment, everything in Pujols' world shifted. He and his wife Deidre founded the Pujols Family Foundation, dedicated to supporting families of children with Down syndrome and to serving the poorest communities in the Dominican Republic. This is not a vanity charity. This is not a logo on a hat. The Pujols Family Foundation runs over 125 events every single year. It has funded medical missions in the Dominican Republic, providing surgeries, healthcare, and clean water to communities that had none. It has built schools. It has provided scholarships. It has given hope to thousands of families navigating the reality of raising a child with special needs. And Pujols does not just write checks. He shows up. He sits with families. He holds children. He travels back to the Dominican Republic, back to the same kind of poverty he escaped, and serves. When it came time to finish his career, Pujols had a choice. He could have chased one last massive contract. The numbers justified it. Instead, he returned to St. Louis, the city where his legend began, for just $2.5 million. Not $250 million, 2.5. His words, "It is not about the money," and that is not a slogan. That is a man who practiced with limes for baseballs and a milk carton for a glove, who earned $341 million over 2 decades, and chose to end his career for the cost of a modest house. When reporters ask about his legacy, he does not talk about batting averages. He does not talk about MVPs or home run milestones. He talks about Isabella. He talks about the families his foundation has served. He talks about the kids in the Dominican Republic who now have clean water because he decided that $341 million was meant for something bigger than himself. That is what real wealth looks like when it is in the right hands. 7 players. Over $1.4 billion in combined career earnings. MVP trophies. Cy Young Awards. Gold Gloves. World Series rings. Hall of Fame plaques. And not a single one of them let the money change who they were. If this video hit different, subscribe to Black Status and turn on notifications. We go deep on stories like this every single week. Drop a comment and tell us, which player's story surprised you the most? And share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Black Status. We are just getting started.